Oh, God almighty. Y'all been by at least twice a day, and now you're back again for dinner. Or supper, depending on how y'all think about it. I guess it's supper here in the South. And you caught me. Now, I know many of y'all caught me on the video one or two back when I had started laying out some things for tonight's supper, okay? And I asked you to guess. And yeah, many of y'all guessed right. Sort of, kind of. Or at least you guessed maybe half right. And we'll be going into that a little bit more in detail as we throw this all together and get her cooking. And it's going to make up a pile of food. So I got enough for you, me, Trixie, Gracie, and the kitty crew too. So come on, like always, let me show you what you're going to need to throw it all together. So as you can see, like always, we got a pile of stuff out here. Oh yeah. And you can see, and I think this was how y'all guessed part of what we're going to be doing. You saw those old green bell peppers laying out. And many of y'all said stuffed green bell peppers. Some of y'all said Spanish rice, which it could have kind of been. And I also cook up on occasion. So let me tell you what you're going to have. Of course, you're going to have those green bell peppers. Now, you could use red ones, orange ones, yellow ones. That's your choice. In my days of growing up back in the day, for the longest time, in fact, all during my childhood and teen years, I never seen none of them there orange or yellow bell peppers. Primarily, you'd see green, and on occasion, later on in the year, you'd see red. But you're also going to need some Hamburger meat, and I've got here, a little less than a pound of my favorite, 73% lean, 27% fat. Why? Because the flavor's in the fat, folks. Trust me that. You're going to need some rice. I'm using long grain white, but you could use wild. Understand if you do, it takes longer to cook. Or you could use medium grain, short grain. It really don't matter. You're going to need some onion. Oh yeah. Now that one there is a pretty hefty one. We ain't going to use all of it, but we'll go through that as we throw it all together. You're going to need some fresh celery. But if all you have is some of that there dehydrated celery, it'll work just fine too. I'm telling you. Then you're either going to need some fresh garlic or minced garlic. Now, this just happens to be dehydrated minced garlic. And just so you know, useful tip, that's what I love about McCormick. If you want to know how much of this is equal to 1 clove of fresh garlic, it tells you right here on the back. See that? 1/4 teaspoon minced garlic equal 1 clove fresh garlic. And that changes depending on whether you're using that jar garlic, which is a 1/2 teaspoon because it's so much milder, or you're using garlic powder. Oh yeah. Then we're going to be using a little can here, 8 ounces of tomato sauce. And normally my mama would have used diced tomatoes, probably her own canned from our gardens, same way my great-grandmother did. But I like to use this Rotel original, diced tomatoes and green chilies. It don't put much heat in it, but it does spice it up a little. And as always, you're going to need some salt. Now, this is iodized salt. If you hating on that, well, use uniodized. Or, you want to get fancy, you could use some of that there old Himalayan salt. Let's see. Yeah, we got some right here. This is Trixie's favorite, so I got to reserve it for her. Now, you're also going to need some ground black pepper. You can use fresh ground, of course. For your main seasoning, Mama always used Italian seasoning. You know, Mama was sort of a basic traditional cook. Garlic powder, onion powder, Italian seasoning, poultry seasoning. Those were the things you could bet were in her cupboard. Then you're going to need some Worcestershire sauce. Oh yeah, I prefer French's. If you want to use some of that Lynn Pierman's, you go right ahead, I have. Then you're going to need some yellow mustard. You can use it dry. I like to use this wet. Of course, Heinz, for obvious reasons. It's my preferred brand. And then some grated Parmesan cheese. This is Surefine brand, you know, store brand. And that's what you're going to have to need for my recipe for not only stuffed bell peppers, but unstuffed bell peppers. Because it was the unstuffed that solved a major problem that Mama had when the children were growing up. And I'll go all into that as we start slicing and dicing and throwing all this together today. Okay? So the first thing we gotta do, we gotta slice and dice some onion. And since this is fairly large onion, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna only use about probably 3/4 of it. If you got a small one, that'll be all the more better. Got our old trusty 40-year-old knife here, chef's knife. Well, you know, the more I think about it, it's about 50 years old, you know. Now, since I'm peeling and dicing and doing all that and everything, getting this here onion peeled so we can dice her all up, throw her all in. You might wonder why I'm doing stuffed and unstuffed. You know, I said I'd talk a little bit about that while we were prepping all this, right? So, why are we doing it? Well, back in the day, and that day being when I was a child, my mama, my daddy, my great grandma, you know, all them, they loved stuffed green bell peppers. Yep. Didn't matter what color. Of course, like I said, they only had green. And occasionally red, depending on the time of year. And these were all the more popular. And something they would do during the gardening season. Yep, we'll put that over on our bachelor plate. And what they would do is when those green bell peppers are coming in, you know, it's back in the day when preservation techniques, oops, that one got away from us, were not as readily available. You know, people back then didn't have all them fancy, you know, freeze dryers. Didn't have, you know, a lot of them dehydrators and all that. So they'd enjoy things like stuffed green bell peppers, you know, when they were in season. The same would be true if they had to buy them. Because here again, stuffed green bell peppers, you'd have, when the green bell peppers were available in your local grocery or supermarket. And I'm glad you can't see old Mr. Tom right now, because he's tearing up. Because this yellow onion, is rather stout. And we're just going to give it a nice dice here. And we ain't getting all tore up with it. So what was the problem that my mama saw? Now, I know all of y'all are my age or older, or close to my age. We do got some youngins. And what she saw was, you know, us children, we eat all the stuffing out. Now, granted, my sister below me was 4 years younger than me, and my brother was 5. This was way before, you know, my baby sister was born. She was actually 12 years younger than me, you know. And we'd eat up every bit of stuffing she made inside those bell peppers. What we struggled to eat was the bell pepper itself. Yep, we wouldn't. In fact, there were times, because we had rules at the table. 1, you ate what was cooked. 2, you sat there until you finished your plate. There was nothing like you see now, especially here on YouTube, or on the internet, and you know this to be a fact, where, you know, we allow our children to be picky eaters. And there was no way under the sun that either my mother, any of my grandmothers, or my daddy were short order cooks. Nope. That wasn't a possibility. In fact, Dad would tell you straight quick. It was cooked. If you took it, you sat there until you finished it. And that was rule 2. Of course, when you were little, you didn't have no choice in that. They made your plate for you. So that was a little bit unfair, but that's just how it went. So we're just going to use about half that there large onion there. And Mom was a little bit more soft-hearted than my papa. Yep. And not so much me, because I was older by the time this all came about. And my baby brother at the time and my sister, they didn't like that mushy green bell pepper. They'd eat everything out of it, and the rest of it just sit there. And of course, being that the rule was that you finish what was on your plate, you'd sit there until you ate it, or it was time to go to bed, 1 of the 2. Of course, there were consequences for that, like most of y'all know. And that was you wasn't going to get any more to eat till the next morning come breakfast time. So, like I say, Mama had a softer heart than Daddy, and this bothered her. So she had to come up with a solution. And what was that solution? Well, half of what this video is all about. The unstuffed green bell pepper. Because you see, as you'll see as I put all this together, my filling for the stuffed green bell peppers, there was indeed bell peppers in the stuffing. We'll talk about that. I'm going to go ahead and throw that in saran wrap, throw it in the fridge, and we'll get cutting up some of that there bell pepper. So, like I was saying, Mama had a problem. We're going to start preparing these here green bell peppers, you know, by taking off the top. Yep, right there. Oh yeah, and we're going to pull, and what we're doing is we're getting them seeds out right there. Yep, see them seeds? We don't want them. We're just going to set that over there, okay? And then what we're going to do, you see that white piffy stuff and seeds in there? We don't want that either. But we're going to stuff this one up because, now that I've got older, I enjoy stuffed green bell pepper. So we're going to go in there. And I always tell y'all, and I have in other cooking videos, make sure you cut out that white pithy part. Not to mention get the seeds out of there too. Of course, you eat a seed, there ain't gonna be no bell pepper growing in your belly. Trust me not. So this is what Mom would do. She'd get it all cleaned out there and get all that white pithy out. Get out the seeds and everything. Now here's another thing. You see this all the time on the internet. They're gonna be planting the seeds and growing a bell pepper. Now that don't work. It's still green because this is an unripe bell pepper. Yep, you gotta wait till they get red, orange, yellow, purple, whatever color. So anyway, that's one we're gonna stuff. So now what she would do back when she was stuffing all these peppers, instead of making the unstuffed, she cut out that little seed part right there, and she just have this cap here. Now some people save the cap and put it on the top. Mama didn't do that. And this is where it came up that she knew. Wasn't so much that we youngins, not so much me, but my younger brother and sister didn't necessarily unlike green bell pepper, because she'd do just like I'm doing. She'd take all the caps that she cut off right here, like I'm doing now, and she'd dice them on up and she'd put in her filling. Yeah, it's just the way they did it, So in her mind, when she was watching the youngins eat, younger than me, and they were eating all that filling, even with these chopped up green bell peppers in it, in her mind, she knew it wasn't so much the green bell peppers, that big green bell pepper, that I don't care what you do. I admit, it gets a little mushy and the texture ain't quite right, and some people love them, some people hate them. And like I say, over the years, I've got to where they don't bother me much anymore. So she'd dice up all the caps. So she knew that wasn't the problem. And she wanted to make it easier on the young. You know how parents are. The firstborn, some people say, well, I made all the mistakes with the firstborn. See how we got that out of there? All just like that, cutting around. And as other children are born, what they learn from the first, they implement on the second, third, fourth. Sometimes, not all for the better, just as my opinion. Because my baby sister, 12 years old, 12 years younger than me, and she will get so mad if she ever sees this video. That was the most spoiled child on the face of the planet. Oh yeah. So here again on this one, we got all that piffy stuff out. We got our cap here with the seeds. So now what are we going to do? Well, we got to dice it up, because this is what Mom would do. Now to keep Daddy happy, because Daddy wanted us eating bell peppers. Now Daddy wasn't stupid. Daddy did a lot of reading. Being an engineer himself. I mean, yeah, he was a career military man, but he's also a learned engineer. And he loved to read, learn about things. And he knew that, and you might not know, but he knew that bell peppers, and especially when they're ripe, have way more vitamin C than oranges. You might not have known that, but he knew that. So, you know, Daddy was a good daddy, and he wanted to do right by his children. Well, that's part of the reason. Raise those huge gardens. Even though sometimes, even I didn't understand why, since there was times we grew so darn much, even with our canning and preserving and all that, we gave a goodly amount away. Of course, Dad tried to sell it at times, which I've tried, and people ain't gonna do that. But anyway, she knew that she had to cook up at least 2 for Daddy, 1 per herself, and Daddy expected, and especially when sisters and brothers were young, they should each have a half, later on a whole, bell pepper. So, depending on how old kids were at the time, Mama would 2 for Daddy, 1 per, that was 3. 1 for me, and then 1 for each children. And she knew Daddy wasn't going to have it any other way, whether she continued to stuff the whole peppers or do what she finally come up with. And as you see with this second pepper, what I'm doing, I only got 2. She would take all those other peppers that were meant to be eaten whole by the sisters and brothers, and she'd do like I'm doing right now. She'd dice them all up, and boy, these things are crispy. Even with this here sharp knife, which will shave hair, they are something else. And they are good. Straight from Florida. It's one thing I love about superfoods. You don't get our produce so much from California. We get it from Florida. And central to South Georgia, central to South Alabama, Carolinas. It all depends on the time of year. Yep. And she'd cut up, because you know Daddy, he knew what we grew. He knew what we brought in, and he'd look in that Frigidaire, or the ice box is what they would normally call it. So, like I said, that's how Mama knew. Wasn't that us kids hated the bell peppers as much, taste and texture, at least not when it was diced on up like what I'm doing here. It was just more about that there big, sort of, you know, off, you know how they get, sort of a off green and mushy. And I gotta admit, even though Mom and Daddy didn't have much sympathy for me back when I was younger, before the youngins were born, you know, I could sort of relate to my siblings' problem. Even though I thought at the time just wasn't quite fair. They should have had to suffer just like I did and get through it. Because I mean, we all know a lot of times what we hated in our childhood, unless we're real closed mind, we begin to love later on in life. So we got 1 here for stuffing. We got the other 1 plus the 2 caps to go in our filling. Okay? But we gotta get that there celery chopped on up. Yeah, that's why I tell stories in the background of all this, and do the chopping and all that. So to be somewhat entertaining, maybe, sort of, kind of. Now, I know the youngins, they don't have much attention span for this. Anything over about 10 minutes and they wander off. But it is what it is. Okay? Let me get that celery. Well, y'all, here we are. Got the celery. I think this is the last thing we got to dice and slice and put on a plate here. Of course, got, you know, the unchopped pepper. You know, we'll place that over there and that. So, for those of you who are getting attention deficit right now, I apologize. Those of you, like many of my viewers, live alone and that, and like the stories along with the cooking, you know, that's what I do. Of course, I do it, you know, for my children, my grandchildren, my friends and family, you know, just saying, you know. So, we're going to just, you know, give this quick dice. You might be wondering, well, that's a whole pile of veggies going into that filling for those bell peppers. Yep, you'd be right. It is. Not so much meat. Why is that? Well, there's a lot of talk nowadays about, you know, people not wanting us to have our meat, not eating so much meat. Ain't good for the planet and everything. Of course, I think we all know meat all of a sudden has got stupid expensive. Now, that all being said, was it always that way? Well, no. And that's what happens to youngins. You know, y'all were so spoiled. You had cheap groceries. Now, for most of us, way older than you, and some way older than me, food was a lot more expensive. Especially meat. I mean, you gotta think about this. Back during the times of the Great Depression, food, especially meat, not only was hard to come by, you couldn't afford much of it. Meat became more of a seasoning than a staple. Yep, sure did. And if you look at World War I and World War II, which also, well, not World War I so much, but World War II influenced my parents, the rationing and everything, meat also became more of a flavoring and seasoning than it was, you know, what it is today. I mean, my God. People today want to eat a whole steak or, you know, pound of roast or what have you. Back in the Great Depression, World War II, that just wasn't even nothing, you know, even close to the case the way it is. Now, something else you say, because I know youngins do this a lot. You know, they chop off these leaves and they don't use them when they're cooking. I'm just here to tell you, that's a bad mistake. Those leaves have way lots of flavor in them than even the celery ribs. Yes, they do. So we just putting all that on that one plate, and then we're going to take this one. We're just going to slice it on down there like that. Don't gotta be perfect. Yep, something went in the floor. Gracie will be playing with it here shortly. she wakes up. Because, you know, she's currently asleep, of all places, on top of the air conditioning in the living room. Gracie ain't stupid. No. She knows where it's cool. Currently outside, it's above 90. In here, we're at a comfortable 78. You know, it's like back in the day, old Jimmy Carter, during the energy crisis, he told us we need to cut back on that, and that became a federal guideline. 78. Yep, sure did. Of course, me, it ain't because of federal guidelines. It's because, like many of y'all, I'm on fixed income, and I hate it when I get comments, you should have invested more, like we did. Yeah, well, I did. And pardon my language, shit happened. There's one thing about it. I've always taken care of my family, my close friends, and my loved ones. You know, I never let money or my hankerings to hold on to sway my decisions. If I had it and the kids needed it, or friends or family needed it, so be it. So there we have it. We got everything diced on up. 2 ribs of celery, you know, 1 green bell pepper, you know, with the caps, 2 bell peppers, and basically a half, 2/3 a large onion. So we're going to set that back in the fridge, because now we got to get on to the stove, okay? So y'all, it's time to get this thing whipped together, get it cooked. Now, I got thinking about all this, you know, and I put it in a Ziploc bag, you know, because it's south. You got all kinds of flies, fungus gnats, fruit flies to protect. That's a whole pile of veg, right? You know, that was all that onion, celery, and bell pepper we cut up. And that's a pile. So I was thinking here that that little package, or what is it? 0.89, see, not even a whole pound of hamburger wasn't going to be enough. Now I will say this, my mother would have stuck with this. Yep, she had to feed the family 4 back when we was poorer than dirt, but we didn't know it. You know, and this was only $1.73 a pound. Do you see that? So, and then I forgot, as soon as that hamburger gets in here and starts cooking, Grace and Trix are going to be in here begging. So, with that said, thought I might add another pack. Now, yeah, this is going to make a pile of food, and that's why I upside my pot some. So this is 0.82. So we're going to be just a tad under 1 3/4 pounds uncooked. So why did I say that? Well, because cooked, it's going to be somewhat under 1.5 pounds. And then when you take away what the kitty crew's going to have, and Trixie and Gracie, it's going to probably barely be a little bit over 1 pound for me. But anyway, the recipe will say anywhere from 1 pound to 1 3/4, your choice, okay? So we got that pot here heating up, and you want to get her sort of, kind of warmed on up. Don't take long with this aluminum. Now, I could be using cast iron. I got a whole lot going on with these veg, ground beef, and we still got to add the rice and everything else. And I don't want to make a whole mess over the stove. So this is what we're going at for now, okay? So, we're going to drop in that ground beef, start getting it browning and everything. Y'all have seen that, you know, dozen times. You don't know how to ground your own ground beef. You know, brown, well, you keep cooking it not till it's gray. Just got, you know, some browning. I'll show you as we go along like always. So I do believe those pans heated up now. You know, it don't take long. It don't do nothing when you're cooking. Regardless of the pan, heat it up, son. Hold on. Shut my mouth. Can you hear the sizzle? Can you hear that? Oh yeah. Baby, that's what you want to hear. You want to hear the sizzle. Ooh, that should get you tightened up down yonder. If it don't, then you ain't loving your meat. Better start loving it, because we're going to be eating a whole lot less of it. Not because we're forced to, but just because the price is getting extreme. And that's why old Mr. Tom starting to revisit a lot of mama's recipes. And, like I said, because I forgot about the kitty crew, we're going to throw in this other packet. Now, you might wonder, this is going to make a pile of food. Oh, yeah. Let me tell you something. You don't got to use this just for stuffed or unstuffed peppers with a couple sides. No. This will make some amazing sandwiches. Oh, yeah. And if you'd like to see some, I can do some up, because I will be. I can post them up on the community page, okay? So we're going to let that start to cook down. Now, I got this here newer, not sure, spatula, chopper, that a viewer sent me. Maybe she's still watching, because she thought that other one that I had, you know, done wore down over the last 40 years, was getting rather wore out. So one of you out there, and you know who you are if you're still watching, sent me this pine one. It's big too, and it works great. Now, I ain't gonna get one of those fancy smashers from Amazon or Walmart.com or Target. No. Well, Mr. Tom been cooking with my old bamboo one that I had. So, you know, I got this one. And sometimes, as y'all know, I forget to get it. But today, I was thinking. Now, I know y'all can't see in the pan, but there ain't no reason for y'all to see right now. We're just, you know, cooking up the meat. Yep. And since it was in the fridge, where it'd been defrosting, it's a little bit chilly. And for God's sakes, folks, don't cook your meat till it's just gray. Cook it to like I've showed you. You know, the edges a little bit browned. Or take it a little bit more. Because not only is the flavor in the fat, but the flavor, as we all know, is in the brownie. Right? So we're going to let this go on and cook all that there water out, because there's water in it. We're going to let that fat render, you know, because this is fat flavorful. And y'all go on in the dining room, get some sweet tea or Kool-Aid, whatever y'all want. And y'all come back in when you see old Mr. Tom slapping this pot again, okay? Well, that hamburger meat or ground beef or whatever you want to call it has went ahead and browned up some. Yeah, not all of it's got to be brown. And I'm sure the camera ain't going to pick it up real good. But there's two ways you'll know. You'll be able to go in there, stick your face in there, and see the sides of some of that burger browned on up, especially around the edges. Plus, you'll notice a change in smell. Let's see if the old camera pick up some of it anyway. Okay? Let's see if we can pick up some. Maybe not. I'm thinking maybe not. What do y'all think? Anyway, trust me, we browned it. It just ain't gray no more. That's important. And the reason that's so darn important is because not only the fat, but the browning, as we all know, on steaks, chops, lamb, whatever have you, puts in that flavor. And for anybody who don't know how to operate their stove, we were sitting here right here the whole time while y'all were running around and at a 5, about midway on my phone. Now what we gotta do, we're gonna take the one we're gonna stuff out and we're gonna drop in the veg, okay? And we're gonna take them right here, scoot them right out of that there Ziploc bag. Yep. Which that's another thing, you know, everything's going up these days. So we're reverting back to the olden days where old Mr. Tom will save these and I'll wash them. I'll turn them inside out and wash them. No, we old people do that. So, went ahead and dumped on in that onion, green bell pepper, and celery. Now, see, this thing coming together. Woo! You see, until we stick it in that pepper, what we got right here, right there is what we got, is the base for making the unstuffed peppers. Okay? We're going to take our little lonely pepper that's going to be supper tonight. For me, y'all are going to have the unstuffed. Oh, I'm sorry, I only had 2 bell peppers. And stick it back in the fridge to keep it cool. So now what we got to do, start sweating our veggie down. Since we're going to be stuffing that one bell pepper, cooking them young, and plus I like a little bit of crunch in my veg. We're not going to cook this down a whole lot, so now we got to, you know, start getting the stuff put in, okay? You know, the other stuff, seasonings, rice, and all that stuff, okay? Now, the first thing we're going to throw in this thing, got our measuring spoons right here, is some of this here Cormick minced dehydrated garlic. And a little useful tip for y'all is 1/4 teaspoon of this minced dry garlic is equal to 1 clove. Okay? Useful information. Now, if you're using that wet stuff comes in a jar from Walmart or Great Value, because over time that gets real watered down, way more mild. That's 1/2 teaspoon. Trust me, it is. You can look it up. And then garlic powder, like Mama would have used, is 1/8. Because see, during the dehydrating process, as well as, you know, this is dehydrated we use. We actually gonna put in there 4 quarter teaspoons. Now, might say, oh, Mr. Tom, you could just put 1 teaspoon in. Yeah. Then you might not learn though. So that's why we did what we did, okay? So that's 4 quarters or 1 whole teaspoon. Okay? But anyway, that would make 4 fresh garlic cloves. Mama hardly ever had mince dry, and she darn sure didn't buy none of that Spice World stuff like you youngins do. Nope, never did. But I have, back in the day before I knew better. You know, you can look that up. The difference in allicin content, Kent's content between powdered, dehydrated, dry, minced in the jar, and fresh. Might be surprised. We got that garlic on in there. And the reason we didn't cook it with the meat, because we didn't want it to burn, not one bit. So what are we going to do next time? Well, and there ain't no rhyme or reason to the actual order of this. As long as you get it all in there, or you can use spices you want. Now we're going to drop in some Italian seasoning. Now normally if I was going to spice it up, I'd use some basil in there too, but Italian seasoning has basil. So we're going in with 1 teaspoonful, okay? If you love it, put more in, okay? And then we're gonna put in some some of that there pure ground black pepper. Yep. And I like pepper, as all of y'all know. And we're gonna put us in, boom, a whole teaspoon, not a tablespoon, a teaspoon. And you know, since we got that Italian seasoning in there and everything, we're gonna start fluffing this up a little bit. Get those spices all in there getting happy with that there ground meat and our veg. I'm gonna turn down to a 3. Okay, on my stove. Now salt wise, you know, folks, for us old folks and those who have high blood pressure, whether old or not, and just general health, sodium ain't a good thing. So try to cut it back whenever you can. And do your research. I'm going to throw in 1 teaspoonful. And if you watch a lot of cooking channels, you'll know that ain't much. And like I always say, you can add more, but you can never take it out. And the potato thing don't work. In my life, I've had to try that. And in my wife's life, God bless her soul, she had tried. So, we got the dry ingredients in there. So what are we going to do next? Well, what we're going to do next, we got to start adding some wet ingredients. So the first thing up the bat that we're going to throw in there wet is this here original Rotel. Now you can use the medium, you can use spicy, hot, whatever. I prefer the medium. And you know, I always put a little water in there, get every last drop. You know, back in the day, we didn't waste a thing. In fact, that'd make a good grease can or a drinking can. Push came to shove. Think about it. Not hard to beat a can for a drink. Next, we're going to throw in is that 8 ounces of tomato sauce. Ooh, yeah. Now, this is definitely something, youngins, that you're going to have to put a little water in. As you can see, rinse out every last bit of goodness. And we did that. And got some of that there pure filtered water. And we went ahead and rinsed that out. So we got all that in there. So, let's give all that. Let's give those tomato products a little mix around. You know, flip it up there. Woo. See that? Ooh, it's starting to look colorful, ain't it? Surely it is. Starting to look like something like Spanish or Mexican. Even though in my family, we weren't of Spanish descent. Nope. German, English, French, Viking, you know, that whole bunch. So, we got all that colorful stuff in there. So now we got to really add some robust flavor. And there's one way to get it. Worcestershire sauce. Or Worcestershire sauce. Whatever. It don't matter. So, got a tablespoon here. People get on me all the time. Because I be measuring, but that's the engineer in me. So there's, well, a little more than a tablespoon. Now I'm going to go about half a tablespoon more. Because I like it. Okay. Woo, doggy. That does give it some flavor. If you're not cooking with Worcestershire sauce, or whatever, then you need to do it. And I know a lot of youngins cook with that soy sauce. So we got all that in there. Now to give it a little bit more kick, tartness and bite, of course, it's time to put the Heinz yellow prepared mustard in. Now, just so I don't got to dig it out, I put this in here, I sort of think about it. And I put about a tablespoon in. More or less, it'll be okay. Ooh, she's starting to come together now. Yes, sir. When we get it all together, we'll start showing it to you. Because all the time I've been running my mouth, adding ingredients, that bed's been cooking down. And then we got to add that old filler in that was so popular during the 50s and 60s, stretch that meat. And we're using long grain white rice. A little over half a cup. We're just going to toss that on in there, okay? And now, for those of you who are rice challenged and don't know how to cook your rice, remember rice is a 2-to-1 ratio. Whatever your rice you put in there, say that's half cup, you want to put 1 cup water. If it's 1 cup of rice, 2 cups of water. So there is full cup water. Okay, now we could have put chicken broth. We could have put beef broth, bone broth, vegetable stock. We could have done all that. You know, we're trying to stay, you know, Great Depression style food here. Yes, we are. So we got that on in there. Only last thing I think we got to do, unless I've lost my mind, and that is put us in some of this here Surefine grated Parmesan cheese. Now, you could leave it out. It wouldn't be no big thing. But we're going to put it in there anyway. We're going to put 1. We're gonna put 2. We're gonna put 3. We're gonna put 4 tablespoons in there. Ooh yeah. Which 4 tablespoons, let me see. That's a quarter of a cup, right? Yep. If I remember right, 16 tablespoons to a cup. Might be wrong, but I think I am. And that's gonna make it all the more creamier and all the more tastier. Now if you got some of that fancy Parmesan cheese, you know, that Reggie Romano, whatever it is, more power to you. I just got store brand, okay? So y'all, it's all together. See it right there? All the yummy spices in it, the veg, that ground meat, Parmesan cheese, tomato sauce, diced tomatoes and green chilies. Now all you gotta do, let's sit here, uncovered, or covered, I'll probably cover mine, in the pot. That rice there cooks, which is gonna be about 20 minutes or so, okay? At which time we will uncover it, check the juiciness, and if we want less juiciness, we'll let it sit here and simmer till it starts to boil that off. And then we're ready to stuff that 1 pepper. But if we were eating this as the unstuffed version, this is it, except for cooking the rice and boiling down the liquid. Which when you boil down your liquid, youngins, it concentrates the flavor. I mean, there actually is a science to cooking, okay? So, we'll be back. And I gotta take care of Trixie. You know, she's screaming for something, okay? Probably the hamburger I set aside. Okay. Well, y'all, we let that cook for about 25 minutes after we add that rice on in there. Get that rice all cooked up. And if you notice, you can see, still look like rice. It don't look like something that mutated like a lot of people I see. Overcooked the rice. You know, you still want it to look like rice when it's cooked. And we let it cook a lot of that moisture off. So at this point in time, say you were wanting to do the unstuffed version, well, it's ready to go. Start slapping on some plates or bowls with whatever side you choose. You know, tonight I'm having a whole kernel sweet corn and a roasted tater, or baked, however you want to call it. But I'm going to have a stuffed green bell pepper tonight. So I got to get that green bell pepper out that I cut the top off, and we got to get throwing this in it and get it on into the toaster up on, okay? Now what I've done, I got me a little bowl, okay? And I got that green bell pepper. We cut the top off. Got my finished up filling there. Now we're gonna get us a little spoon, you know, and we gotta start putting some of the filling in here, okay? That's just how we do it, okay? And you just put it on in there. And the secret here is not overcooking your rice, okay? And this is stuffed. That means when you put that filling in there, you press it down, okay? You want to maximize the density, as we engineers would say, okay? Yeah, buddy. Ooh, and I can tell you, I tasted this filling when it was done, and it was all the more yummy. You can see right there, it's about with the top. I'm gonna put a little more on there, you know. Right there. Yeah. Smush it on down there. And there we go. And if you were just doing stuffed bills, you do that every time. And we're going to set it in a little bowl here to contain it, oven proof. Slide out of the way our filling. Now what are we going to do? Well, now it's time to put it in the old toaster oven. Okay? Hold on a second. Okay, I got the pan out from a preheated toaster oven at 350. And you can see right there, probably, we got about, small to medium russet potato, because for tonight, this here roasted or baked russet's gonna be one or two of my sides. And that. Then we got our stuffed green bell, and we're just gonna place that on in there. Now we've been baking that potato now for about 20 minutes. And that. Now all we gotta do is we're gonna just take a little bit of foil, just a little bit, and cover that up. Now you might wonder why we're gonna use some Reynolds wrap to cover up our, well, all we're gonna do is tin it. Because as many of y'all know, in a toaster oven, they tend, since the elements are so close on top or the bottom, they'll burn that top. We ain't ready for that. Now all we gotta do is put it back in for 30 minutes in that preheated 350 toaster oven. At which time we're gonna take it out and check it, okay? Ooh, this baby hot. And I know that timer's been aggravating y'all. We're gonna shut that off right now. So it was in our little bowl, and we got it going on here. Now, how long you cook it, because I mean the filling was already cooked, right? Is how much you want your bell pepper that you stuffed it right there in to be cooked. And the way to check that, you know, some people like them real mushy. Others like a little bit crispy like me. Now I just take a little fork here and I try to stick it down in there. Yep. This is going to have some crunch to it. And I'm okay with that. Of course I got my tater over here. Yep. It's getting there. Oh yeah. This actually been in there for an hour. So what are we going to do now? Well, back in the day, because Mama knowed us kids like things a little bit sweeter in life, she take a little bit of this Heinz, okay? Yep, right here. She put on top, just like that. That Heinz good stuff. And then what she would do, if she had it, not always did she, she'd take out some cheese. Of course back then we didn't have this here fancy grated cheese. And I can never remember Mama using mozzarella, but it's what I prefer. And that's what we're gonna do right now. Oh yeah. We'll take a little bit of that mozzarella right there. We're gonna pile it up on that stuffed green bell pepper. Oh yeah, we are. Right like that. Ooh yeah, doggy. And then we're just gonna stuff it back in the toaster oven long enough for that all to melt and get creamy, okay? So we stuck that on in the toaster oven, and you will notice we did not cover it, because if that cheese gets all melty and a little bit brown, that just make it all the more better. And you know, like all things, we got our foil here with a little bit of that topping on it. Yeah, it's good. And just a little fun fact here. You know, popo, soul folk, especially back in the day. I remember my grandparents talking. You know, the government told them to save the aluminum foil, and they'd make balls out of it and go contribute to the war effort. But after that, they also saved it, and they used it very sparingly, and they also washed it. And if you haven't noticed, aluminum foil has gone up 70% since middle part of last year. So that's what I do too. And I've actually been doing it for a long time. I use the same sheet over and over and over again, and then periodically I wash it. So that goes in the dish tub. And you know what, youngins? It ain't that hard. Just like I turn my Ziploc bags inside out, and I wash them too. So y'all, we threw that in there with that cheese on top. You know, put a little ketchup on there, and that. And let me show you something here too. You know, some of that cheese. Now, I should have sprayed the bowl first. Slid off, but you can scrape it up. Throw it on top of those little cheese crusties. It's all the more better. We got our tater here, all ready to go. And we got our other side here. You know. Yep, just some great value sweet kernel corn. And now we're going to put this all together, make a plate. So this is our main entree I'm having tonight. And I'm sorry, I only made one. So y'all are going to have the unstuffed. I have the stuff, y'all have the unstuffed. But I am going to show you, before I eat all this up, what else you can do with that great stuffing I made, okay? Okay, y'all, I wanted to show you another way I use this, since, as y'all can see, I had a whole lot of this filling left over. Of course, I might not have after y'all finish up eating it, and I do apologize. For those of you who want a stuffed bell pepper, I didn't have enough to go around. This is what you're going to have. And you can use a hamburger bun or a hot dog bun. I do both. You just throw them on down there. You know, however many you like. See right there? Then you take some of that filling with all that goodness in it, and you just smush it down. And I don't care what you do, something's gonna fall out, okay? Put it right on there, okay? Ooh, that stuff's good. Then what I like to do is I take some more mustard, because I like mustard, and I like dill pickles. Some of these here hamburger dill chips. Oh, that's a brand new bottle. It's pretty tough to get open. What we're going to do is we're going to take some of this mustard and spice it up just a little bit more. Just like that. And then we're going to put this on some pickles. Now if you like those little sweet ones, you can put some of that on. Put about 3 of them on there. And then I always get a couple out for me. And chomp on. That's Mount Olive brand. That's the only brand I like. Well, I do like Clausen, except my own. And there you have it. Now, you got you a sandwich all ready to go. Smash on the top. get you some chips, fries, what have you. And you got a ready-made meal. Especially for lunch or a quick dinner. Okay? So y'all, hope you enjoyed the cooking video today. Coming on over to the country kitchen. Now I know these go on rather long. Some complain. But it ain't all about the cooking and how to do it as much as it is spending time with each other. Chatting. And that, yeah. You know, like we used to do. People used to come over to people's houses, have coffee, tea, have dinner parties. That ain't done too much anymore, except on TV. But I gotta do a taste test, and might as well do it with this sandwich here that I made. Now there's plenty more in the pot. See there? So me eating one ain't gonna slight any of y'all. So we're just gonna take this. Well, here we are. And it's getting late. I'm getting tired. And we gotta eat. Plus, Trixie and Gracie, as you heard probably in the background, are whining for their hamburger. Bon appetit. Oh man. I don't know how I look on camera. Well, I'll tell you what. That unstuffed pepper and that soft burger bun with a little more mustard and tomatoes. And you could throw some cheese on it. Toast on and toast rub. Or you can throw some ketchup on it if that's what you like. That's some mighty fine eating. In fact, that'd be all good to go with some french fries, hush puppies, tater tots, or my personal favorite, Fritos. So like I always say, till we see you on the next video, y'all take care, be safe out there, and God bless you, your family, friends, and loved ones. To old Mr. Tom, Trixie, Gracie, Spooky Speedy, sometimes Cleo, Magoo, and Elrod. See you on the next video. Later on. I gotta be eating now. I mean, it only took an hour to cook. Between videos and all that. It took like 4. Let's eat. Call it a night.